Everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about how Tool can possibly make your life a little bit better, if not a lot better. And the reason I say that is because this song, this meaningful song, Reflections, is just that. It's like an introspective look at yourself. So this song is the song that comes after Lateralis, and I did go into that song quite a bit. It's on my channel. I'd recommend going through that just so you get a better understanding of where we are right now. But I think songs that come from Tool and the deeper bands that have grown with us as we've aged. Nine Inch Nails is another one of my favorites. I like going back and forth between those two, so I'll probably do another Nine Inch Nails song after this. The depth seems to get even greater the more you examine them, specifically the lyrics. Now, why did we start listening to music? It's because of the agency. The agency is it sounds good. Maybe it's rebellious. Maybe it's something else. But it's something that appeals to like our very being, our heart. Maybe we just like the genre. It's part of a clique that we're in. That's the agency. Whatever pulls us to it. The second part of that has got to be us examining what we're actually listening to. And a lot of years of study have taught me this, and you can look at culture around you. What you surround yourself with, that is what you will become passionate about. What you voluntarily subject yourself to. You will be passionate about that. And the excuse, well, I just like how it sounds, that works for a 16-year-old perhaps, but maybe not a 26-year-old. 26-year-olds should know better. 36-year-olds, you should really know what you're doing. Perhaps. That's part of the hero's journey. You should be learning constantly and like aiming up. And that's a huge message that Tool specifically describes to, at least from what I see in their lyrics. A lot of their songs have very great depth, and this pair, Lateralis and Reflections, is probably like one of my favorites, my greatest. I'm just going to start out with these because I think they're pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the song. I'm going to read the whole song, then I'm going to dissect it line by line. What we're going to be looking for are certain themes and patterns that call to us and teach us to live well, or teach us to live better, because it's always better if we have a greater understanding of what we're exposing ourselves to. Okay, the cat has finally settled down. So it goes like this. I have come curiously close to the end now, beneath my self-indulgent pitiful hole. Defeated, I concede and move closer. I may find comfort here. I may find peace within the emptiness. How pitiful. And it's calling me. And in my darkest moment, fetal and weeping, the moon tells me a secret, her confidant. As full and bright as I am, this light is not my own, and a million light reflections pass over me. The source is bright and endless, she resuscitates the hopeless. Without her, we are lifeless satellites drifting. And as I pull my head out, I am without one doubt. Don't want to be down here serving my narcissism. I must crucify the ego before it's far too late. I pray the light lifts me out before I pine away. So crucify the ego before it's far too late. Leave behind this place so negative and blind and cynical, and you will come to find that we are all one mind and capable of all that's imagined and unconceivable. So let the light touch you, and let the words spill through and let them pass right through, bringing out our hope and reason before we pine away. So we have to start somewhere. We'll start at the top. And this song, just like Right Where It Belongs, and like a lot of other songs and these very deep thinkers, they're multi-layered. So we have to start at least on the surface. It seems shallow and simple. We got to start somewhere. I have come curiously close to the end now. And that's time, right? Mortality and time. We are stepping our way closer to the end day by day, whether you want to admit it or not. And the Indians call this Maya. It's like the general illusion that everything's okay. But suddenly when like death or catastrophe happens, that illusion is broken for a bit. And despair, which is the ultimate reality under everything else, that comes back in. Beneath my self-indulgent pitiful hole. Self-indulgent pitiful hole. Well, that's selfishness, and that's agency, and that's impulse. So in the beginning, like in Lateralis, it talks about black and white are all I see in my infancy. That's like things are simple when you first start out. And then things get more complex as you get older. There's like a variation of choice and a variation of good versus evil. But this is beneath that. This is beneath the agency. This is beneath your hunger and your lust and everything else. Because if you go down deep inside yourself and you try to find out what you really want, that is pure narcissism. That's being a sociopath. Psychopathy. You go in yourself and that's your motivation. It doesn't take many people like that to ruin the world. But if that's where you dwell, that's a heck of a place, man. Good luck contacting anybody and having communication. Defeated, I concede and move closer. I may find comfort here. I may find peace within the emptiness. How pitiful. As deep down inside yourself as you might go, you understand what's there because you've been looking at it your whole life. It's what's in between the atoms and materialism. It's basically nothing, but it's an unknown nothing. It's an unexplored nothing. Trent Reznor does a great job diving into this in like the Downward Spiral album. And he comes to the same conclusion that Gautama Buddha did, that life is just terrible I want out. And he believed in the karmic cycle, so you're coming back again to do all this terribleness again, to go back to death and over and over and over again. So that's nirvana. In case you didn't know what nirvana was, it means to extinguish. It's not a pleasant peacefulness. It's literally obliteration. So just keep that in mind for those of you who want to go that direction. That is what it is. It is. You might try to sugarcoat it as something else, but it's masking the finitude of this flesh you wear with the desire that you want to escape it, but to nothingness. So just be very careful with that. That's how I see this part of the song. I may find peace within the emptiness. How pitiful. And this is reflecting on even pitying yourself. Like maybe I can find peace down here if I just brood and withdraw. And it's calling me. And that's, again, agency. You stop eating for a while and lay in your bed, you're going to get super hungry, and that's going to compel you to move forward. That's like agency in the negative. This next part calls to the soul. So hardcore. And in my darkest moment, fetal and weeping, the moon tells me a secret. So when you're down there, when you're really low, and this is a good place to bring up the hero's story, where you start out in the normal, and they get called to adventure, but the adventure is chaotic, and it offers bounty, but it might scar you. Then you come back, if you survive down there and nothing's keeping you back, you might come back scarred or rejuvenated. You come back to the world with something for them and something for yourself. You come back a new person. When you're down here, that's your darkest moment. Fetal and weeping, and that can break you, especially if you're holding on to something. Like if you have a loved one that died and a lot of your identity is placed into them, you're holding on to that person, well, you're basically dead with them because you're not moving on. You need to let the healing process come in again. And that's when you're down in the depths, looking straight up, you see that light. And that's the moon. That's the remembrance of what was. And also when you're in the darkest depths, the light seems just so much brighter. If there's one single star in the sky, you're going to see it. And that's the moon. That's the light in the darkness, which is what the moon is. It says this in Genesis. God created the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. And the moon is amazingly complex. Like, you should go study on the moon. I strongly recommend it. It's easier to prove it doesn't exist than it does. And the numbers that are involved, and we are in Goldilocks land, if you haven't realized that. Anyway, the moon tells me a secret, and that's the secret. She says, at least I think she does, and as full and bright as I am, this light is not my own, and a million light reflections pass over me. So it's saying, this what you see, this reflection that's giving you hope, I am not the source of it. I am somebody that's just giving you the encouragement that's been given to me, letting you remember the normal life you used to have. And the source is bright and endless. She resuscitates the hopeless. Without her, we are lifeless satellites drifting. And that's the sun. The sun is the source that's bright and endless. But you can't look at the sun, at least not for very long, but you can see all things because of the sun. So the sun is always there, and you can get in such a dark place that the sun can't touch you. Right? I mean, obviously the earth rotates, but in your life, you know what is good and what is right, but you still feel a different way because you chose to, encourage the feeling, or dive into it, or do something you know you shouldn't have done, and go to a darker place instead of the light. Because something the light assumes, especially if you go to the scriptures, the light assumes recognition. The light assumes information. It assumes understanding. Because the opposite of that, obviously, is blindness. But that's what light does for us. It does all those things. But the moon is another satellite. You need that light from another satellite, from another being, to encourage you. And if anything, the evidence behind that is we know that one of the best ways, actually the best way to cure somebody who's suicidal, might be medication. That's debatable, but it's helping someone else out that's less fortunate than you are. And that's true. You help somebody, even if it's a child. Help grandma cross the road. I don't know. Go feed the homeless. There's a lot of things you can do. But if you're helping other people, you are being the moon and you're pulling them out of that dark place. That's noble. That's huge. Or you're the one in the dark place and the moon is shining its light on you. And that's encouraging. Because without others, without other people having that light of encouragement, that light of hope and rejuvenation echoing onto other people, we are lightless satellites drifting. If you just stay inside your narcissism and it's all about me, well, that's relativism in its absolute sense. Why even talk to other people? That assumes you want to understand them. Because it's all about you and you just going after your own lusts or pleasures or agendas, whatever it might be, instead of interacting with reality that's outside of you. That's our common denominator, is this reality that we all live in. And the character in the song gets this, and so he says, as I pull my head out, I am without one doubt. I don't want to be down here serving my narcissism. I must crucify the ego before it's far too late. I pray the light lifts me out before I pine away. So this takes a minute to unpack. Like, I love just contemplating these lines in the song because they echo what is true in life. And obviously it has to, otherwise no one would be paying attention to it. So he willingly pulls his head out of the dark place. He doesn't want to be down there serving his narcissism, because that is away from the light, and that you can go infinitely down to the darkness for sure. The line, I must crucify the ego before it's far too late, that's interesting. He doesn't say kill the ego. Because if you look at us like, you got the id, the ego, and the superego. And this is like the transcendent law that governs everything. This is the earth itself, or the horse you ride. And in the middle, that's you. You're trying to negotiate the law, whether it be moral, spiritual, everything else, and the earth, because we are all material beings, and you are that, and so am I. So why crucify it? Why not just kill it? 'Cause what happens if you kill that? If you kill the mediator between the known and the unknown, because at the earth you know everything about it, but the transcendent's pulling you somewhere you don't know exactly where. If you destroy that, you destroy all communication. That's one thing that happens. The other thing that happens is you become an automaton, because now there's no buffering between the two, and one just does what it wants to the other, and who knows who wins that conflict. So why crucify? Well, crucify is excruciating, obviously. Hence the word excruciation comes from crucify. So what does pain do to you? Because that's the question you should ask about that part. Why crucify the ego? Why put that person, that middle, you and me, in pain? Well, what pain does is it shortens the time window. So you can see, if you're that middle person, and you dove so far down, pulling your head out, instead of having your time window like this, and you constantly go up to the transcendent, maybe you're thinking aloud, then you go inside yourself and you brood. It shortens that time window. It also brings together your abstract thought, because you want to be a person. I take Ishinru karate. Ishinru means heart and mind. It means one heart way. It means you're both this and this. You have to understand that. You're both parts. You're also your past and your future, and you have to negotiate between the two of you. What are you doing with your future? And what kind of past built you up to this? Are you ashamed of your past? Are you going nowhere? Or are you going to use your past to build off of, and you have an aim in mind? Well, the problem with having an aim in mind is you must acknowledge your own mortality, especially if you're going to do something like spend 5 years on education. Well, there's 5 years of your life just gone. Before you even live it, you know what you're doing with it. It gets a little scary that way. So you crucify the ego to bring yourself back into like a nice medium, and you pay attention to where you are. And you pray the light lifts him out. Because that's what you want your aim to be, the transcendent. You want to go that direction, up. Whatever up is, you want to go up. So crucify the ego before it's far too late, and leave behind this place so negative and blind and cynical. That is the beast mind, the stomach. That's the emptiness. Just leave it behind and aim up. And you will come to find that we are all one mind and capable of all that's imagined and unconceivable. Now, you can go a couple directions with this. This is very new age. Like, we are all one and we all return to the one. I don't buy into that. This is my opinion, because if you do that, you lose your individuality. You lose a lot of reason for even respecting other individuals. And you can say, no, you don't, but yes, you do at the same time. The karmic cycle eventually kind of binds everything back to the one. And if you look at the systems of hell and the karmic cycle, people lose their individuality. You're just a being. You don't even know who you are, but you're in hell and you're suffering. I don't know if I could buy that, really. It's too impersonal. It makes you not take people seriously, because they're just going to come back as something else anyway. And obviously they got the caste system in India from this kind of thinking too. So maybe it's because I'm raised more in the West. I just can't buy into that. Maybe it's because I think there's significance about the life we live right now that has ramifications into the future, that is not separated from us. Because if I lose my being and lose my accountability and memories and everything I ever did, what's the point of doing anything? That's right up there with materialistic atheism of nothing on either end, which you can believe and live a normal life in between if you wish. But the illusion is there's nothing. There's no reason to do that at all. That's the illusion. Reality is the nothingness on the end. But that's not what this song is talking about. The song is talking about you even aim up, and you aim up past the flesh. You aim up past reasons to keep you inside yourself. And maybe you see yourself in like a third person that way. That's one way of lifting yourself up. You examine yourself, be like, what am I doing with myself these days? Where am I going? What difference can I make on the earth right now? So when he says we are all one mind and capable of all that's imagined and unconceivable, that's the potential of good and bad for every single person. In Carl Jung's The Red Book, he had to eat the liver of a battered little girl. And the reason he had to do that, it was very allegorical, very, very meaningful in this dream hallucination thing that he was having, is because as dark as the darkest person on this planet is, you are also that. and you have that potential. And to ignore that, to say you couldn't do the terrible things you see on like other YouTube videos and other stuff like that, is to lie to yourself. Nine Inch Nails wrote a song called The Great Destroyer. I'm using another song to point out points in this song. Say your name. Try to speak as clearly as you can. You know, everything gets written down. Nod your head. Wait until you know the time is right on time. The end is near. I know they cannot see the limitless potential living inside of me. I hope they cannot see I am the Great Destroyer. Describes a person of pure pacifism, just letting things happen. That's the Great Destroyer. A hero-less world where no one ever stands up and says, that's wrong. That leads down a dark path. That kind of thing. You don't have that transcendent aim. You don't have the light lifting you out to understand things around you. So let the light touch you. Let the words spill through and let them pass right through, bringing out our hope and reason. This is again referring to light as it touches you. So it touches you. You understand yourself. You see yourself as that being. Because in the beginning, God said, let there be light. And again, light assumes understanding. Light also is like tied into the equation of time. So you can look at it like we can't have time without light. You can't have understanding without time. That's another way you can kind of look at that. And it goes from light touch you to words spilling through. So light and language kind of go hand in hand. So the light that lets you understand is the language that comes into you, and let it pass right through. So then give that light as it bounces off of you to somebody else. As it brings out your hope and your reason. Because everybody wants a life that makes sense. A senseless, unexamined life is not worth living. And it brings out hope and reason when you examine your life and you look at the other satellites around you and maybe shed a little bit of your light on them. So all in all, this song really is a good song. Good in the sense of purpose, and good in the sense of being a moral guide for being itself to continue on. At least as far as us human beings are. So, that's why I think this song can really help you live better. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. If you want me to do another song like this, Tool and Nine Inch Nails, I'm going to go back and forth on because they're just pretty awesome. Leave a comment below, like, sub to see more in the future, and I hope I'll see you next time. Take care.